In this lesson, we're going to work with tuples. And tuples are very similar to lists, but they're a little bit different because they are surrounded by parentheses rather than brackets. But we use tuples a lot like we use lists. They're not quite as universal, but for some uses, they're quite adequate. So for example, in this exercise, we're going to use tuples to represent a point, an XY coordinate. So let's get started. Let me make sure my program isn't already there. Okay, it's not. So we're going to start a new program called line.py. That's where we're going eventually, is to make a line out of 2 points. But first we're going to build the point class. And so we start off by writing our constructor. And as you can see, we build the field point by creating a tuple out of the x and y parameters passed in the constructor. So now let's write a toString method. And the way it's going to work is it's going to get the x coordinate by taking the 0th position of the point, and the y coordinate by taking the 1st position of the point, just like so. And then finally we're going to write a method called setLocation that takes x and y coordinates and just sets our point to a new tuple of x and y. So let's try that out. We'll create a point, display it, and then set its location to somewhere different, and then print it out again. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so that worked just fine. So now let's build a line class. So the first thing we're going to do in our constructor is write self.point1 is equal to p1, and self.point2 is equal to p2. Then let's build a toString method. Just like so. Then let's put a new line. Then let's drop down to the next line to write the second point out. Just like that. So let's create a line. Line 1 is equal to line P1. And let's introduce a new point, like so. And that will become the second point of the line. Then let's print the line. Then let's set the location of the second point to something different. And then print the line again. Okay. So let's see what we get. Let's clear the screen. Made a slight typo right there. Try it one more time. We'll just leave it up. There we go. So to review quickly, a tuple makes an excellent data structure for storing points, XY coordinates. And we used that concept to create a point class and then to create a line class that uses points in its definition. Now, let me mention that when you use a class in another class in this way, you're performing something called composition. And composition recognizes has-a relationships. Just like inheritance recognizes is-a relationships, car is a vehicle, composition recognizes has-a relationships. In other words, a line has a point, at least one, and actually has two. But you see the difference between inheritance and composition. And a lot of times, people will use inheritance when they should be using composition. We mentioned this earlier in the chapter on inheritance, but I just thought I'd mention it again, just because it's a very important topic. So that wraps up this exercise on tuples, and we're ready to move to the last exercise of the chapter where we're going to work with dictionaries.